Hey, how are you guys? My name is Steve Barron. I'm making a quick video in reference to setting up a stereo rig for the Blackstar HT Club 40. I had this one here, which was amazing. This is a great amp. It sounds awesome. But I thought about, I'm trying to pare my setup down and get everything small so I can pack it easily to gigs and stuff. But I was thinking about how could I do that stereo and do it with a twin. So the first thing that comes up when you're talking about stereo guitar amp situations is channel switching. And there's a lot of back and forth about Y cables and Y connectors and all this stuff, and none of it's really guaranteed to work. You wouldn't be able to use your 5-button pedal. If you had the Blackstar 5-button pedal, you wouldn't be able to use that. So I'm just trying to show everyone a way that you can set these two amps up and use one channel switching pedal and be in total stereo. It's kind of a wet dry is going to be this, setup here. Basically you're going to have a master and a slave amp. Your master is going to provide your overdrive and most of your preamp stuff into the slave. And I'll show you how I did that with one channel switching pedal. On that note, you want to go ahead on your slave amp and just disconnect the foot switch from that altogether, because you wouldn't want to switch that over into overdrive and have this pushing into it, and that would be an awful mess. It wouldn't hurt anything, but it would just sound bad. But so here's how I did this. I normally run a 4-cable setup because I don't like my reverbs, choruses, and delays to be in the front of my amp. I think they don't sound good that way unless your amp is bordering on clean or clean, and then they sound fine. But if you're running a high gain sound, that's just not going to sound good, not to my ears. So I normally run my guitar out into the pedals that I want to go into the front of the amp. In this case, it's a tuner, an Ibanez Tube Screamer, which I'm actually not using right now for this, flanger, because I think flanger sounds cool. It's okay sounding in the front of the amp, and a noise suppressor that I use. Okay, I go through that and then come out and go into the front of the amp. But I'm also using a Zoom multi-effects pedal that has stereo outputs. So what I do there is I go out of the effects send of my master amp, and this could be any 2 amps. There's 100 different ways to get a stereo setup, and you could do this with any 2 amps as long as one of them has an effects loop. So I go out of my send here into the Zoom multi-effects. Then I go out of it back into the return. So we're talking all line level stuff, so you're really not going to screw anything up. You never want to mess with any speaker jacks or speaker outs or anything like that on any amp. You keep those plugged up all the time, because if you run a tube amp, especially with no load, you're going to kill it. So anyway, that's my effects loop. Send from here to my Zoom pedal, then the Zoom pedal goes back to the return of this. And what that does is that gets the effects that I want to have room and to not be affected by the preamp, that gets them after the preamp, because that's what an effects loop is. You think of a guitar amp as a preamp and a power amp married together. Well, an effects loop is like the stepkids that come along with the marriage. That's the in-between little thing there that says, this is not a complete, this is not just, there's something in between here. That's probably a terrible analogy, but I think it's funny. Anyway, so your effects loop is a little trail that goes from your preamp. It's like you can tap into the preamp or the power amp with the effects loop. Anyway, so you're thinking maybe, how is it stereo? Well, it's not stereo yet. To make it stereo, you come out of your stereo effects pedal that you're using for your effects loop over there, because remember, you're using only one output of it right now to that return. You bring the other output to your second amp's input on the clean channel. That way, I mean, you could put it into the effects return and have power amp. You could do all that and use just the volume here, but you wouldn't have any tone shaping, which kind of helps it with its stereo characteristic. So I'll run into the clean channel on this amp, which is the slave amp. That way I've got a little bit of tone. This amp just has one knob for tone. This new version has 3. So if you were using 2 of those, you'd have even more tone shaping in the preamp section. So you come into the clean of this, and what that does is, I'm going to play this for you. So right now, what you're hearing 99% of the preamp sound is coming from this amp right here. And it's, you know, getting affected and everything. And that preamp sound is being sent by this pedal, because it's going through here. It's being sent to this amp, which is on clean. And here's what it sounds like. I've got some delay and some stuff on here right now. I'll go through a few things. Now, it's flashing back between these a lot. You know, it sounds really cool. You may not be able to hear it on the phone, but here's a super, like an arena reverb. Alright, so that sounds pretty cool. That's clean. And here's the really cool thing. Because we are using this as the master preamp into this clean channel, we only have to worry about using one foot switch, the foot switch that goes to the master. So now I'm going to go into my distorted channel, which is pretty balls to the wall. And I'm going to turn off that arena reverb. And that's coming through both. I mean, it sounds badass over here. I don't know if you can hear it on the phone. Now, if you put on, I like the that detuned 80 sound from the Best of Both Worlds album and all that. So I've set this detuner up to kind of emulate that. So. So, you know, there it is. But like I said, this is for people, because I couldn't find anything really good on the subject. This is for people who want to use 2 of these Club 40s, which I think is a great live setup. I'm loving the Blackstar stuff, because it sounds like a modified JCM 800, but all the time. So they're just, they're great. You can just buy one and they all sound good. But like I said, that's going to be my future setup. If you pair 2 of these together, this is how you do it, and use one channel switching device pedal. But anyway, that's it. So have a good one, and I hope this helps somebody, because I always get help off YouTube videos, and I hope this helped you. Thanks.